Hi, I'm Corey. Welcome to Creating with Scraps. This is episode 5 of this Building a Scrap Buster idea book. And today what we're going to look at is making a matchbook or using scraps to make a matchbook and paper clips. All right, matchbook, I've shown it before, so I'm going to go over it super quick. But it's really just like it sounds. It's like the old matchbooks. I mean, I'm assuming they're still around. But paper instead of matches in there, and it's got a little fold at the bottom. You tuck the top in, and it's got a bit of a dual crease at the top, or it can, to hold the paper, and then you can have a pocket on the back or leave it blank. It's, you know, you can staple it or you can sew it, but it's just a little flip up, another way to have a little bit of a paper pad. And the way I generally do it is a lot of times I'll use offcuts from pages. After I built a journal, I've got lots of offcuts, right? So I put them into a little stack, and then I get a scrap of cardstock. Now I generally like to use non-directional cardstock for this. This one is obviously directional, simply because no matter what you do, if you're using a single piece, it's going to be upside down. Some of it's going to be upside down. And if you're using words and prints that go in different directions, it won't matter so much. So you decide which, look at your direction. I want this to be the cover with that pretty fancy writing. And I generally take about anywhere from 1/2 to 1/4 of an inch for the bottom. And you can use a scoreboard, certainly, but I just generally fold it up. And you want that much because you've got to have a place for the top to tuck in. That gives you your matchbook effect. But you also want to have a place to hold the paper, right? So you get your stack of paper and you put it down in here at the bottom of this. And then if you staple too far up, then you won't have anything to tuck your top into. If you staple down too low, it won't hold the paper. So when you're making these or doing these, just be careful to, you want to put the staple towards the bottom if you're going to staple it and not sew it. But you don't want to put it so far down that you don't catch the paper. And roughly centered. And like that. And then I'll come in with the top and tuck the top in, right? And I can push straight down if I want one crease, but I really kind of want 2 creases on this. So I'm going to grab my scoreboard because it gives it, again, that little matchbook look. That's where my paper clips were. Okay, this is the 3rd take on this video, and I could not find what I did with my paper clips. Well, I didn't even realize that there's a magnet here. Look at that. That's where all my paper clips disappeared too. Okay. Well, you live and you learn. Okay. So, scoreboard. I'm going to score it just above where the paper ends, because I don't want it to go all the way to the top and touch the top. And then I'm going to score it 1 or 2 over from that to give me my little, the little matchbook-like crease, right? So I'm going to score them there and there. And you can see that crease at the top. I made it a little wider and a little higher than I needed it to, but I exaggerated it on purpose so that you could see what I'm talking about. You want a little bit of a clearance, and you want a little bit of a score mark. And then you just tuck it in, and there's your matchbook. All right, paper clips. Paper clips is a super broad topic because you can do so many different things with paper clips. For example, these are napkin wrapped paper clips, and I did a video a long time ago on how I use napkin scraps for this, but you can use tissue paper. Book page works great for this, any really thin paper. And then you use these to make dangles. I use them on the side of some composition books here to differentiate the composition books, so I would know which one was which and what the topics were. So you can use them that way. You can make paper clips like we did in a previous video with a little tuck spot or a pocket on the side, and then you just come in and put it over the top of your page or put it on a pocket in your page, right? Here's another sample. This is a bookmark, but I just put a paper clip on the back so that if this were a pocket or the side of a page, I could put this right in with a pocket on the front and use it that way. You can do double-sided paper clips. Here's one that I use as a tab for the side of a page. And so I've got a pocket on the front, a pocket on the back, and I might use this one on a page that was just like a writing page to give it a little bit of decoration or interest. And then another way I like to use them is again, when I've got like a solid page or something, or when I'm putting a journaling card or something that needs to be clipped in, I'll use a paper clip with a little bit of like a mini cluster almost to put on the side of a page to hold it in front and back. And I'll show you really quickly how to make these because somebody had mentioned in a previous video that they wanted to see it. And what I do is I'll get 2 or 3 pieces, and you can do this like for banners or any of your paper scraps. So this is a paper scrap and a little Tracy label and a card. And so I just glued these bits together. And then I'll come in with the paper clip. And do you want it your long side of your paper clip? You want your long side to go here. So if I wanted this to face the opposite direction, if I wanted the paper clip to go in this way, if it was going to go on that side of my page, my left side of my page, I would make the long side and the loop pointing in. If I wanted it on the right side, I'd make the long side and the double loop pointing to the right, if that makes sense. So if it's going to go on the right page, you want the loops facing left. If it's going to go on the left side, you want the loops, the double loops facing the right. Okay, that's probably a better way to say it. So I've got these pieces, and you can use paper, you can use lace, you can use what I'm using here, sari silk, you can use ribbon, you can use pretty much anything you want. And I find it easier. Some people go in after they sew it and do this, but I haven't had great luck with that. So what I'll do is I'll put a piece of ribbon or lace or sari silk or what have you on between the center loop of the paper clip and the bottom. And then I will lay my piece down, and I don't want it to touch the top of the paper clip exactly. I want, like you can see here, you want at least a little bit of wiggle room for that paper clip to move. So I will move this down. And then what I do, this is personal preference only, I grab my purple tape so that I can hold my ribbon where I want it, because it's really easy, especially for lace and sari silk, it's really easy to have it move. And then you sew it crooked, and then you're bummed because you didn't get it where you wanted it. So I will put it in like this, make sure I've got it up just a little bit above, I guess you can see that there. And then I'll take sari silk, or paper clip, paper tape, purple paper tape over the bottoms. And then I'll go and sew it real quick. And I sew right along the top of the paper right here. Okay, so you can see I sew right along the top of the paper. And then I'll just come in and trim my sari silk. Well, here, I didn't even trim that one. But then I leave it a little long, and then so that I have room for the purple tape to grab, and then I'll come in and I'll trim it off. Okay, and that is how you make those paper clips. Two notes. Somebody asked me how you do these little curls and why you do the little curls. Well, one, because they're cute, but two, when you're putting charms or things on the sides of these, the curls help them stay. They help it to keep it from sliding off. And same thing with this. It helps the sari silk to stay where I want it to stay. And Tracy Fox did these a long time ago, and I first learned about it from Mrs. Cog on Mrs. Cog's Crafts. And I am no expert, but I'll show you how you do the little curl. Okay, on that note, before we go on any further, there are different sizes and different colors. I'm sorry, my hands are really inky. And styles of paper clips here. Like this is the Tim Holtz little itty bitty. Oh, there you go. There's a scrap of, oh, what's that stuff? Tulle. I just tied on the top. You know, just a scrap again. So you've got different sizes. Big is great for really larger journals. The small is great, but it's harder to curl these. You can be done, of course, but it's a little tougher because they bend so easily. And this size, it's the 2-inch paper clip, I guess. All right, not all paper clips are created equal, and I'm going to show you what I mean. All right, I've got 4 different 2-inch paper clips right here. Okay, this is obviously a wire coated because it's colored. Not my favorite to curl because the wire coating makes it rough. Then these 3 are essentially the same, but they're not really, because the cheaper paper clips actually tend to work better. The more spendy paper clips have this, I don't know if you can even see it, this plastic coating on the top, and you can feel it. And I guess it works great to hold the paper together, which is what paper clips are designed to do, but it doesn't work so great for our craft needs. At least I don't find so. And then so you've got these two. And they cut this one, I don't even know if you can see that, if I can even get it close enough. It's got little bits of serrated edges. And that is, again, designed to hold the paper. And those work just great. And then this one is probably the cheapest of all of them. And it's the kind that I actually prefer because it doesn't have any little lines or hash marks or serrations. And it doesn't have that wire coating. So I generally tend to choose these. All right. You get your wire. There's a name for these. And if I were a bead person, I would know what it is. But it's the ones that are round and they taper down. All right. And I generally tend to do the inside one first, but there's no rules, so you certainly don't have to. And I do it in 2 passages. So I'll grab it like about so, toward at the end, or very close to the end, but not too far, because then you won't grab it to curl. And I'll grab this and I'll wrap it around about halfway, okay, like about so. And then I come in again and do the same thing. I put the end of the paper clip touching the end of the round pieces, and I come in and I curl it down, okay, like so. So I do the inside one first generally, and then I do the outside one after that. Now here's a note: if you're going to put something on here that you're wanting to stay on here, I suggest you do it before you curl, because unless you're using jump rings, it's harder to get them over and around those. And that is all there is to that. That's my 2-step method. Maybe some people do it in 1 step. And if you goof and you overshoot it, just get your wire cutters and cut them. Okay, so there's that. Another thing that I was asked was using brads and how I make the brads, because sometimes brads have a little bit longer back, and what I do there, like putting in my flower on here, like this one per se. So I like the little itty bitty mini brads. So I'll put the brad in either straight in the flower or in a circle disc, and then I'll put it through my paper flowers, right? So allegedly there's a hole in there. And if there's not, I can just punch one. Okay. And I didn't put it on straight. Well, that's probably why it didn't want to do it, because I didn't put it on straight, but that's okay. And then you come in the back and you lay the brads down. You spread them and you lay them down flat. You push, and that doesn't take up a super lot of dimension, right? It doesn't make it super thick. But then if this were to be like on the back of a page, like it came up because of the mini album I made the other day where the brad was on the back, and you put a circle disc or something on top to cover it, right? And you can see a little bit of the brad poking out. I don't know if you can see that or not. But anyway, all I do, because these are longer backs to the brads, I'll just take my little wire cutters and I'll cut it down a little bit. It's already in and through, so I don't need it pointed like I needed it to be to get it in, but it's still going to hold it in place. And now, if I were to put this on the back, put and glue it down and clamp it, you won't see any of the wire bits coming through. So there's my tip on that. All right, if your given name is Marianne, you probably should stop watching now, because your new journal will be mailed to you tomorrow, and I'm sure you don't want to ruin the surprise. For those of you who purchased journals from me recently, once again, I learned something new. I knew that I liked to personalize them, and I told you that I would personalize them, but it's taking me way longer than I thought it would. I've been able to get about 2 journals a day done. So if you were wanting your journal super quickly and you don't want to wait for me to be able to ship it, I am absolutely happy to refund you your money. Just let me know, and I'm going to message everybody who purchased them that I haven't sent them to yet. But if you do want it personalized, just know that I'm able to, after school, get about 2 a day done, and then I'll mail it the next day, like the one I finished today. So this is what I said. If your given name is Marianne, don't look. So I like to do things to make it hers. And so even though the base was done, the things that I chose to put inside are a little bit different, like some initials. And she wanted some lace, not a lot of lace. And so I changed up the pages a little bit to give her the lace she wanted, the amount that she wanted. And I also started changing it a little bit. Remember, I said that no two are going to be exactly the same, and they aren't. So each one I did, similar things to, but I also did them a little bit differently. I changed it up. And on that note, somebody else asked me what kind of vintage ephemera you'll get, and I'll go over that in just a second as well. So each page is a little bit different, but it's also, when I'm sitting here making these, I think about that person and what I might know about that person, and I try to make something that I think that they would enjoy. So see, this is very similar to the previous one, but it's also different. It's not the exact same configuration, layout, projects, pages, styles. Each of it is just a little tiny bit different. And I do that for all of them because, you spend quite a bit on your journal and you want to have a journal that reflects you and who you are, right? So again, they're all a little bit different. And so back to what I was saying. It takes me longer than I plan on. If you don't want to wait, let me know. I'll happily refund you your money. But otherwise, like I said, I'm doing them in the order that they came, and I'm doing about 2 a day. I've mailed out 4. I've got 2 more ready to go tomorrow, and then I'll just keep doing 2 and 2. So there you go. And also, just on a note, the ephemera. I found that sometimes these little glassine bags, when you're working with little ephemera, can make it really tough to get it in and out, especially the older, more brittle ephemera. So if you're seeing that, I'll take vellum and fold it over and sew it so that you can easily use your storage pouch, right? But you can easily get it in and out without destroying it. Now, vintage ephemera. And the reason I'm doing this is, 1, some people may not know it's vintage when they get their journals, and 2, to show you that, vintage ephemera doesn't have to be just paper or ledgers. There are little, whoops, this goes back in there. There are little bits that you can get and use, and I want to be able to point them out. All right, so if you bought a journal, yours will include, for sure, one of these really cool French paper tickets, and I want to say they were 1938, but there was a couple sheets of them, and they're just seriously cool. So everybody who got a journal gets one of these vintage, and the paper's just really slick. Gets one of those. You may have green stamps. These were dated 1956, I believe. May have green stamps. These tickets were from a roll from 1960, so you may have one of those. These blue chip stamps were dated, I want to say, just after World War II, so maybe 46, 47, something like that. So those are in there. These ice tickets are so stinking cool, but they're really, really, really thin. And I want to say these were like 1902, 1903, something like that, pre-World War I. And I believe everybody gets one of these really cool ice tickets. And again, I was looking for bits and pieces that were authentic, that were also the right size. I purchased on Etsy some cigarette or tea cards, vintage ones, the original ones from England or UK. And this one's a tea card, Brook Bond tea. So you'll get at least one of the tea cards, and vocabulary cards, language cards. It might be French, might be German, it might be Italian, it might be English, but those are also, I want to say these are from the 60s. And then I've got this really cool purchase order book, and I think the date on this, on the original one, was 1957, I believe. Everything I had was 60 or below that I used. And so you might get one of these. So when you're seeing these and thinking, why in the world did she include those? It's because they're really cool vintage little bits, and they fit the size. All right, there you go. There's today's video. Thank you for watching, and happy creating.